I'd like to call the November meeting of the Board of Education order. What I would ask is that everyone stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Chairman, if you would please call the roll. Madam Secretary, I'm sorry. I'm promoting you tonight.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Ms. Oren? Here. Ms. Tate? Here. Mr. Brackett?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Ms. Hamilton?
Here.
Ms. Jackson? Here. Mr. King?
Present.
Mr. Taylor? Mr. Wright?
Here. The next item on the business is adoption of regular consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Brackett. Mr. Miller?
No.
Mr. Brackett?
No, sir.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from the October 13th, 2020 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion?
Motion by Ms. Hamilton,
Second it.
second by Ms. Orr. Ms. Hamilton?
No.
Ms. Orr?
No.
Anyone else? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. We're going to move the Board of Distinction Award up to Ms. Williams. And I would ask Ms. Williams to come forward along with Mr. Brackett, as he was chairman. And this was awarded for honor.
Thank you all for allowing me to be here tonight, and thank you to your wonderful secretary. She led me through Hammond in the dark tonight. So I'm ready to. I am so privileged to present this award to you. Thank you, Chairman Wright and Past Chairman Brackett, members of the board, and Director McFall. It's my privilege to be here tonight to present you with the Tennessee School Board of Distinction Award. This award is one of TSB's most prestigious awards, and I commend you all for following the four key areas: planning, policy, promotion, and board development. As you know, the requirements are extensive, and you are one of the few board members that have followed these areas to qualify as a board of distinction. However, you're among the select few. On behalf of the Tennessee School Board Association, I am proud to present to the Board of Distinction Award to the Roane County Board of Education. Congratulations.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, the reason that Mr. Brackett accepted this was earned under his leadership for the past year as chairman. We'll move on to recognition. First on the agenda for recognition is the Roane County High School girls soccer team. If you all would come forward, please. Coach King, Ms. Hamilton, Ms. Orange, y'all would like to say a few things and recognize your constituents. You can turn it left and right over there. Skip on somewhere.
I just want to say it's an honor to be up here with these girls, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of the first girls soccer team at Roane County High School, so for being able to recognize you guys is an awesome, awesome privilege. Way to go.
Congratulations, girls, we're all proud of you.
Thank you.
Mom. We're gonna get up there. Way to go, man.
Look, tell them to thank the school.
Super.
Okay.
All right.
We'll go ahead and let Coach Daly tell you guys about the plaque and how far the girls went.
Our girls won the district championship this year and placed second in the regions. We have a district championship plaque and a region runner-up plaque. And we made it through the first round of sub-state tournament, which is the first time we've been there in about 12 or 13 years. Well done.
If you would, tell us your name, start here on the right, please.
I'm Alex Lunsford, assistant coach.
I'm Ellen Daly. I'm the head coach. Carly Pettit.
Micah Jola, Anna Bolden, Kaylee York, Autumn Walters, Maddie Wright, Olivia York, Jordan Ross,
Emma Herrera.
Madison Harrell, Annabeth Lane, Bruce Jola, Gracie Boyd, Burns, Kirsten Walker.
Repeat next year? What do you think? Repeat.
Thank you. By the way, y'all are free to leave if you choose to leave. Hang around if you want to watch. Sure. Okay, next, recognition. And I would ask that the Auburn Springs Middle School football team, which was undefeated this year, I do believe, come forward. And I'd ask Mr. Fox and Mr. Taylor to step up.
What goes out?
Coach, if you would tell us about the year, I think you were undefeated, you were state champs for this region.
Yes, sir. We had a 10-0 season, first 10-0 season in Oliver Springs Middle School history. It's only the second undefeated season. We won the Class AA state championship at Campbell County on Saturday. I believe it was October 31st, Halloween Day. We beat Rockwood Middle School, which we were really proud of. At least it was two Roane County teams. But it was a great year. These kids worked hard, and we fought all the COVID-19 protocols and everything else throughout the year. But I'm really proud of this team. We had a lot of great nights during the fall.
Good job, guys.
One thing that also, Coach Hopper was named the East Tennessee Coach of the Year.
Tell their name, we'll give them to here.
My name's Tevin Springs, defensive back and receiver coach.
I'm Jasmine Gomez, I'm the football manager.
I'm Dave Nash.
Kate Jackson, John Robbins.
I'm Howard Hunsaker. I'm one of the other managers.
Noah Jackson.
Carson Evans.
think you get,
Tyler, you need to come, you need some to call for.
Yes, we have, this is not just our full team, we do have several out, we're a small school, so of course y'all know that, many of our players play multiple sports, so we've got several in basketball tonight against Midway, it's 8th grade night as well, so a lot of my coaches couldn't be here as well as my players, but it was a great team effort all year, and we miss those guys tonight, but we hope they're about to go home or take care of business at all.
all right, thank you, guys. Guys, you all can also leave if you choose to do so. We'll give them time to vacate. Okay, moving forward, it's time for hearing the delegations. At this time is the only time you'll be able to speak, so unless you're recognized by a board member, you yield the floor. Is there anyone here that wishes to address the board? If you would, let me read this first. If you want to make your way up here, please. The board will now open the floor to those individuals and delegations who wish to address the board. If there is a group present, please select one representative to speak for your group. Please state your name and address for our record and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. This will be the only time that individuals from the floor will be allowed to speak unless a board member yields the floor to them. To protect the board's legal process, as well as each individual's rights involving complaints or issues affecting school system employees, the board cannot hear a verbal complaint against an employee. In the event that you are here to voice a complaint against a school system employee, I direct you to School Board Policy number 5.501. And if you would give us your name and your address, please, sir.
My name is Daniel Del Moro. My address is 1501 Granger Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37917. Like I said, my name is Daniel Del Moro. I am a music teacher at Bowers Elementary School, and I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today, even though it is just for a few minutes. I see every student in the school, and I see them once a week, so I feel like I have a unique perspective on how things are going in the school, and a lot of things are going really, really well. When I entered this profession, I believe that environment takes precedent over content. There has to be a positive learning environment. There has to be a safe environment for education to happen. Last spring when COVID-19 hit in the music world, we were very unaware. We didn't know how playing instruments or singing actually affected aerosol distribution in the classroom. So the University of Colorado Boulder and the University of Maryland put together a study. This was backed by 83 respected music groups across the country, including NAFME, which is the National Association for Music Educators. They're the ones that decide our standards, and the Tennessee Music Education Association. I do not have the time to walk you through this survey, or this study, but the study is linked in an email that was forwarded to you by Dr. McFall. And I ask you after this in your own time to please, please, please read through it. Okay, just to not write me off and please read through it. So basically what they did is they took a bunch of musicians, instrumentalists and singers, and they hooked up machines to it. And then they measured the aerosol distribution in an indoor space with the proper HVAC system. They measured it with masks and without masks. At the moment, in Roane County schools, the choice is up to the child whether they're going to wear the mask in the music room. And I understand when this policy was put into place, it was in place for the parents to decide whether the student wears the mask. Parents aren't in the school. And these kids are deciding whether they're going to wear their masks in this environment, and they are unaware of the information, and they're kind of unaware of the situation just because they're young. Like I said, I teach elementary school, so I'm not talking about high school students here. So my proposition is for you to read this survey, read the study, look at the data, and I want to try to get a mask policy for performing arts rooms in Roane County to keep the children safe. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else who wishes to address the board tonight? Last call. Seeing no one else, we'll move forward. We'll have the director's reports.
Yes, sir. I am happy to report some news to the board. We had a pre-bid conference held at Oliver Springs Middle School this week, and I'm pleased to report to the board we had 7 to 8 general contractors that showed up to that pre-bid conference. And as you know, to bid on the project, you must attend the pre-bid conference. So we were very encouraged by the number that showed up, and hopefully we can have a really competitive bid process. That bid opening is December 3rd. The addendums have gone out, and I've read through all of those. They're asking really good detailed questions, so I think there's a lot of interest in the project. But that bid opening is December 3rd, so we will, at 2 o'clock. So we will hope for good news on that day for that project. I also want to take a moment to thank our schools, our principals. Even though we were not able to celebrate our veterans as we normally have in the past, that did not mean that we were not going to celebrate them. And our schools, they were pretty ingenious in the way they chose to celebrate Veterans Day. So I wanted to thank all of our schools for that very important recognition for veterans, that we did not let COVID-19 get in the way of celebrating our veterans. So thank you very much. I passed out to the board some updates for our COVID-19 numbers in our schools. We are pretty much a microcosm of society, so you will see that as numbers go up in our community, you will see the numbers go up in our school system, and that's what we are seeing right now. We have approximately 65 positive cases in our school system, and that is among students and staff. And really, one of the things that we're struggling with right now, which is no different than any school system, is the number of quarantines that we have. So I do want to take a moment to thank our teachers and our staff for doing everything they can to keep students and themselves and other staff members as safe as possible. But that is something that we are working on a daily basis. I'm also happy to answer any questions that the board might have. I want to also update the board, our capital improvement team. We have been touring facilities, meeting and then touring facilities, and we just toured the Kingston schools last week, and we will be touring the Midway schools at the beginning of December. That will leave the Oliver Springs and Midtown Elementary, and then we will start the process of compiling what we saw into a plan that we can then bring to the board and present to the board. So that's going very well, and I want to thank the board members and the community members who are a part of that team. I also shared with the board a handout detailing the number of students families that chose remote learning for the second 9 weeks. As you all know, the families had to make that decision, and the second 9 weeks, you will see those numbers. Our percentage decreased a little bit from, I think 2% from the first 9 weeks to the second 9 weeks. And we have allowed, even since the board gave me the flexibility to work with some families if they felt like they had chosen remote but wanted to come back in person. So we're working with those families individually. But those are those numbers for the board to review. I also have good news. We were, like every other school district in the nation, ordering new devices, and we were basically back ordered, put on wait list. We thought until about December or even January, but we're really lucky in that we got at least one shipment of new Chromebooks, and those have been dispersed. I think all of them have been given out. We got, I think, over 1,000 Chromebooks in, so we were lucky to get those in and get those out in the hands of students. Mr. Chairman, that is all I have to report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Dr. McFall? Have one, the Chromebooks that are being replaced, are we handing those down to the elementary?
Yes, sir. And they already have those. That process is already happening.
Ms. Hamilton?
Mr. Chairman, I had talked, I think, Dr. McFall yesterday about the possibility of making sure that we could get this online. Is that still possible?
Yeah, we're looking at that. There is, what you have is one sheet, and the total document that we're working off of is, I think it's 36 pages. So we're trying to come up with a way to link those to that document so it's a living document, because right now we're having to do that by hand. And we want it to be as accurate as possible. So we're working on that. But all of our numbers are on the State Department of Education, Tennessee State Department of Education. We report those live every Monday. But yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Any other for Dr. McFall?
I'd like to say one thing. I appreciate Dr. McFalls and their whole staff for jumping on grants and everything, so we got way ahead of the curve because of the hard work that they put in ahead of time to get these Chromebooks and all the devices that we were able to get. They did a super job on that. We were about ahead of about everybody, I think. And,
Mr. Kamer.
yep, did a great job, all of them.
No, any further? Business manager's report?
I have nothing.
Facilities? I think you did a pretty good job of reporting on that. Committee reports, policy committee. Mr. Cox?
We had one policy, it's in your packet. And it would just be for, tonight only, to look at.
Any further? Chairman's report. I mentioned this to you, I think, the last meeting, and I'd like to bring it to your attention again. In order to keep our board of distinction, one of the things you have to do is have a board retreat. At present, what I am considering, and I ask for you to check your calendars and see if it's appropriate for you, is for the end of February. I don't have a specific date, and I'm looking at Roane State. I've talked to Vice President Matthews, who's in charge of the facilities, and they will let us have we can have the road room. The only thing that will require, which Ms. Hamilton's fully aware of, is you will have to log on to the site and actually answer 2 or 3 questions before you can get on campus. And what I would also entertain any feedback, if you would rather do it all in one day, or maybe do it on a Friday evening and a Saturday morning so that it splits. So if anybody has any feedback now, then I'll be glad to hear it. If not, certainly by the meeting in December, because we'll need to start letting Roane State know so they can plan. Seeing none, I need a motion to approve the reports.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Owen, is there a second? Second by Ms. Hamilton. Ms. Owen?
No, sir.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes, sir.
One final thing, if you would let me enter this in my chairman's report. Talked to Mr. Thompson today. We're going to have a special recognition in January, and I'm going to move the January meeting to Kingston Elementary School. Mr. Thompson and I talked, and he feels comfortable that he can accommodate in the gymnasium the social distancing, and considering our recognition, I think it's appropriate that we do it there. So if no one has any objections, we'll have the January, give you plenty of notice, I know, but that also gives Mr. Thompson time to maybe do some things and whatever he may want to do between now and then. So give you a little heads up, we'll move the January meeting to Kingston Elementary School. With that, will y'all include that, everybody in your motion? All those in favor of approving the report, say aye. All opposed, say no. Now we move to old business, a review of the COVID safety precautions.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Miller.
I'd like to make a motion that we discuss the COVID safety precautions.
Have a motion by Mr. Miller, is there a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Mr. Brackett. Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, I want to talk about masks. And I understand that I can't make a motion for masks because I made the motion earlier, back in whenever we met and discussed this. And I was on the losing side, so I'm hoping that someone else will make it. I feel like we have an obligation. I've heard all of our board members make the statement on numerous occasions that the safety was the number one item that we have to deal with for our kids. And I think there's three sets of people involved in this. I think it's our kids, I think it's our staff, and I think it's our parents. We have talked on numerous occasions about how many kids we have that are being raised by grandparents. And it's probably the last person they have to take care of. And I think, or I hope that everyone at this table would agree that the professionals that do this for a living have said that masks and social distancing help you tremendously with this virus. I think I heard the figure today, 80%. And I think it's our obligation that we do what's best for these kids. And this is not about politics or anything like that. This is about what's doing what's right. And I think the other thing is too, we talked about how hard it is to get teachers and subs because we're having a lot of teachers having to miss. Dr. Paul, I'd like to ask you, is it true that if we make masks mandatory, that our teachers become essential workers?
That is not the only, no, there has to be a special vote to make them essential workers. We have to apply with the health department. And the mask being required is one aspect that we do have to put in place.
Good. I just think that we have to look at it and say, are we doing everything we can to keep our kids safe? And if the professionals that do this for a living, this is their job, tell us that mask helps, then if we don't make them mandatory, just to be perfectly frank, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, and I don't think we're not doing our job. And I know people don't like them, and I've heard at the last time that we voted on this, one of the big arguments with it is that we can't enforce it. I tend to disagree because I have a lot of confidence in our principal and our educators. I think if this board mandates masks, I think they'll take care of it, like they have all these other things that we've asked them to do. And hopefully, this won't go on much longer. But we're losing people. There's between 1,000 and 1,700 people dying a day in this country. If that happened in Roane County, in 2 months, we'd be gone. And I just think it's crucial that we do everything we can to make it as safe as we can on these kids, on our staff, and on our parents. Because I think everyone in here will agree, we've got some staff members that if they get it, they're probably in serious trouble. And I know it's tough, but I've got a grandson that's in kindergarten. And boy, I thought, man, if we do these masks, back when we were talking about before, boy, he's all board. And I mean all board. He'll never go along with that program. When I picked that boy up at school, when he walks out that door, he's got that mask on. And he's not made to put it on. When we take him to school in the morning, he puts it on in the car. We don't have to tell him to. And he wears it. And I believe that if we make them mandatory, yeah, we're going to have some fighting. I get that. Anything we do, we're going to have some fighting. But I believe we've got a lot of kids that will put a mask on because that's what they're supposed to do. That's the rules. And there'll be some, as I said, will fight. But I just don't see how, as a board, that we cannot do everything humanly possible to make it as safe on these kids and keep them as well as humanly possible. I think we owe it to them to do that. And I just think it's something we need to really think about. And we need to let the people that do it for a living guide us. And that's what they say. That's all I got right now, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brackett?
Yeah, I got a few numbers I wrote down, but then I got a question or two for Dr. McFall. As of today only in Roane County, there was 40 new cases. That's today. In the last 7 days, there was 293. The last 14 days, there was 532. Since this started, there's been 2,090, and 19 people have died. So a few things I did notice tonight, we had a football team and a soccer team walk in here. Every one of them had a mask on. I mean, if we're already wearing them, what does it hurt to have a mask mandate if I'm right, a mask mandate has to be in place to deem a teacher an essential worker? That is a yes. There's other things, but it has to be in place. That's a yes. Okay? So, I am like Mr. Miller. I'm a loser too. I can't make a motion either on masks. But if we're what we say we are, I think we need a mask mandate also. And that's all I have right now too.
Dr. Powell, why don't you tell
I did have one more question. I'm sorry. Can I have the floor back?
Yes, sir.
Do you think a mask mandate is a good idea? I just want a yes or no.
Yes.
Thank you. Now I'm done.
Would you like to tell us what the definition of an essential worker is, for those who don't know?
Yeah, so in the beginning of all of this, the governor deemed folks in public education as essential workers, which means we were on the front line, similar to a doctor and nurses. Which means we respond differently, our employees do, if we were to become in close proximity to a positive case. After several weeks of practicing that way, he then revoked that and said that public educators and folks working in the school system were not essential workers, and said that if we want to apply to be essential workers, then there is a process that we have to go through with the health department, and there are several things that have to be in place within our school district before we can make that application. And one of those is that we mandate masks. I will say, whether we mandate masks or not, it is not my plan to petition the board to have us dedicate our employees as essential workers. I don't think it's the right thing to do for our staff at this point. And there are that I know of personally, and I think I have the correct number, I think there are only 2 districts in the state of Tennessee who have deemed their employees essential workers. And they're obviously not having to quarantine as nearly as many as we are. But I wouldn't have that plan to ask the board to that, but that answers your question.
What would that mean for the teachers if we declared it essential?
That would mean that if they are within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more of a positive case, right now they are automatically quarantined if they're deemed an essential worker. If they are having no symptoms, they come to work and wear a mask full time until that time would be over or they would develop symptoms.
Mr. Taylor.
I also was on the losing side, so I guess the bottom line is, anybody that was on the winning side will make this motion. I mean, I think it's the right thing to do, but I have somebody make a motion.
Dan.
Mr. Coach King.
I want to be as safe as possible. I've got 2 grandchildren in our school system, one at elementary school, Kingston, one at Cherokee. I want to be as safe as possible. What happens, what's the punishment for somebody that doesn't comply? Somebody that doesn't comply, what's the punishment going to be for those folks? That's the question I've got.
Dr. LaFawn.
So we have a code of conduct, as everyone well knows, and there are certain consequences for certain actions for our students, and they're arranged, and it starts usually with a warning, a verbal warning, and then it progresses through a set of consequences for those students. So as we would with any other action that requires a consequence, we would first of all give the students notice, make them well aware of what the expectation is, and then if we did not have compliance, we would work through that set of consequences and handle them appropriately and escalate as it happens maybe again or again or again, just like we would anything else. May not be specific enough, but it depends a lot on the situation. It's not always black and white, and most of the time, a warning will suffice, and if it doesn't, then we'll go to that next step. Ultimately, it could mean sending a kid home. I mean, it's not what we want to do, but ultimately, it could mean that.
Okay, I just know when you put a rule in, you know, you gotta, if there's no
Absolutely.
consequences, nobody's gonna pay attention. And I just wanna know what the consequences are. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor.
My concern with that is, especially with the elementary school children, you know, I mean, that's going to be a really hard, the teachers are going to be spending more time worrying about having masks on children than they can do teaching. There's actually been no studies in the U.S. of whether a mask has any benefit or not. So we really don't know. It's all a learning curve. You know, they're saying wear the mask, you know, but they've not actually done studies that the masks do any good or not. You know, and what if they are actually doing the opposite of what? You know, I mean, it's just such a gray area that.
Ms. Hamilton.
As a new school board member, I lean on the experience and wisdom of former school board members and have gotten to be friends with school board members from other counties. And I was encouraged by one person's example to contact a pediatrician. And I contacted 2 to get, as they're professionals, they work in this medical field, and what would be their suggestion in our situation. And as you can imagine, they said masks do help, but it's not just masks. It's social distancing, it's temperature checks, it's hand washing, it's all of the above. And I'll be honest to say, a couple of days I sat outside of the schools where I represent, and I watched kids go into school. Most of them were wearing masks in elementary school, and middle school, and high school. But we got to make sure that those procedures are all in place, and we do all of them, not just one. So I am all for safety. I think that is our number one priority, but we can't just look at masks. We got to look at everything. So you look at that and you say, okay, how can it be monitored? And then what are the consequences? We have a system in place to allow folks to, and I'm not saying we promote this, but where kids can learn at home. Do we feel like that's the best way? Probably not. But if they have concern about safety and they want to stay at home and learn, they can. And it's proven that our teachers have gone above and beyond, our faculty and our staff and our principals are going above and beyond, making sure that those students have what they need. So is safety the number one priority? Absolutely. But I'm not sure that we have to look just at masks. We've got to look at all of those practices in place.
I'm going to make a comment. Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know about exact studies, but I have a lot of confidence in doctors that do this for a living. It's called infectious doctors. That's all they do. And if you look at every one of them, there is no question in their mind, the professional doctor, that it works. And I mean, they have no reason to say anything else, because I'm sure they're not in the mask business and they don't make any money on it. And if we need to do those other things, then I'm for it. But I believe that if we make masks mandatory, we'll have a lot of kids come back to school. I had a principal tell me when they called and asked about going remote or coming back to school or going to school, a lot of them asked the question, is everybody going to be there and are masks mandatory? And they said no. They said we're going remote. So I just think it's something that we really need to consider and we really need to think about. And we need to listen to the people that do it for a living. I'm almost sure when we make decisions on this school board, we try to listen to Dr. Paul or these educators. Because they're professionals at what they do. And I think we should take masks, temperature checks, all the things that we talk about. And I think that we could say it where, for example, if you can social distance in your classroom, then you won't have to wear your mask if you can social distance. Now that probably is not going to be the case in most opportunities, most situations, but you know, if you can social distance and follow the rules, that's fine. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to make a comment or two. My problem has always been, what are the consequences? Right now, we're asking so much of our staff and our principals, and I think they need, and I have no doubt, and the ones I've talked to, that we're way too past this, that they will do whatever they can to enforce it. However, I think they need some guidance. This is a unique situation. It's not like the dress code, and we all know, I hate to use that as a comparison, but it's one principal interprets it one way and another one does it another way. This doesn't need to be that way. It needs to be across the board. I want to commend, while we're talking about this, our schools and our staff, and I'm going to knock on wood because I'm going to jinx one. Midway Middle has had none. And I actually called Miss Katie with us and said, what are you doing? what are you doing? Now, they're a smaller school. My response was 95%. We encourage, we walk the halls, and 95 to 98% of our students do what we ask them to put the mask on. My custodian is about to polish the metal off the doorknobs. And our parents, which goes back to Mr. Miller, what he mentioned, our parents are involved. If a student doesn't feel well, then the parents call and say, we're not bringing them to school. So it is a buy-in from everybody. I think what we're seeing, though, if you look as well, it's not, the schools, our numbers are pretty good when you look at everybody else's. They're pretty good. And it goes back to our staff, but I think also what you're looking at is a lot of times our numbers jump based on community events. And what we're seeing right now, we trace back some to Halloween, maybe, I don't know. What I would do, I was going to throw something out, but I'm not going to do that. I just think we need to give the principals, the assistant principals, the contact tracing is what's killing us. We have no control over that. I got an email on that today. And I understand everybody and their concerns, and I don't care who you are sitting up here. For you all out there, if you don't think that everyone sitting here has the safety of the kids at heart, regardless of how they vote or what they don't vote or emotion made or not, we do. It's a difficult decision because you're going to have parents. I already know some, so if my kid is not wearing a mask, I don't care what you do. Well, obviously, let them go home. It's remote, but yet again, what if they don't want, they want their kid in school? So there are a whole host of issues to deal with, and obviously, whatever happens, we'll deal with it. We always do as a system. But this is, we've talked about all through, this is such new ground that no one knows, and let's hope that with the information I've read that by April, there is a vaccine, and yes, I'll take it. If it grows 3 arms, I can handle 3 skillets on the stove. But, you know, for me, it's a difficult decision, and I'm like Coach King. There needs to be some kind of consequences. It's kind of like making a highway, the speed limit on the highway 50 miles an hour. There's no real consequences, and the police can stop you, but what are they going to do? And I know we do have some things in place, like Dr. McCall says, that we can. But still, that's a lot of that is going to be discipline. The principal applies it this way, this one does it this way. If I've got a child in Kingston Elementary and one in Cherokee and one in Roane County High School, I may have 3 different ways that it's being applied. And we've experienced that in other things. So, tough decision. And with that, I'm going to close. Mr. Taylor.
Just about everybody in this audience is a staff member, a teacher, or something. Who out there would feel safer, and feel better about going in the building if masks were mandatory? If you would, just raise your hand if you don't mind. Thank you.
Mr. Brackett.
I'm going to be really quick. Just a few things. Ms. Hamilton made a statement that I totally disagree with. Respectfully disagree with. Not all kids that want to go remote can go remote. That is not a true statement. So I'm going to get that off my chest. That's not true. I wish it was true. It's not. Second, there is consequences. Obviously, we talked about them. I've been to my elementary school, Miss Kamakawa, amazing job. 90% of elementary kids wear masks. Elementary is not the problem. It is not. I've also had high school kids I've raised. They're a problem. I mean, they are a problem. So that's going to be your problem. And it appears, and then I'm done, Midway Middle has implemented their own mask mandate, and it works. They have 0 cases. All the proof I need. I'm begging someone to make a motion for a mask mandate. I can't make it. unofficially done.
I'm gonna play auctioneer here then. There's no further comments. Is there a motion to be made on the floor? Going once? Going twice? So there's no motion on the floor, so we'll move to the next item. New business, recommendation from the director. Policy, approval of memorials policy new number 1.809. Let me put my glasses on so I can see here. 1.809, first reading. Mr. Cox, would you have a comment on this in the policy committee?
This policy is just sort of it is trying to limit what goes on as far as memorial students and teachers and so forth, and what the students and teachers can do. It's not to say, a parent or a family or whatever, they may want to grieve there's a loss of a child or something, which we've seen in communities. They may want to grieve that child some other way, and they may not want to extend it for such a time. But this gives guidance on how that is to be done through this policy.
Is there a motion to approve?
I make motion.
Motion by
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. Brackett. Mr. Cox.
Now, this is just the first reading of this policy.
Mr. Brackett.
No.
Anyone else? Madam Secretary, call the roll, please.
Ms. Orange?
Yes.
Ms. Tate?
Yes.
Mr. Brackett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor? Mr. Wright?
Yes. Item D, under new business, recommendation from director, approval of surplus technology equipment to be recycled or disposed. This includes items from Cherokee Middle, Midway High School, Midway Middle, and the special education.
Make a motion.
I second it.
Motion by Mr. Brackett, second by Ms. Owen. Mr. Brackett, no. Ms. Owen. Anyone else? Madam Secretary, call the roll, please.
Ms. Tate?
Yes.
Mr. Brackett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Orange?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Now to the comments. Ms. Hamilton, start on her left.
Thank you, Chairman Wright, for your leadership and for trying to call through your numbers. And I think it's evident that all of our teachers and staff are doing all they can do to help our students succeed. And this season of Thanksgiving, I just want to say maybe we can take time. The schools are represented in our district, just to personally tell them how much we appreciate them. We could not do this without you. We work for you, we serve you, and so thanks for what you do. We appreciate it.
Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, we've got a support personnel, I think everybody got the email from Dr. Paul. We're gonna meet Tuesday at, Mac Building at 5 o'clock, correct?
Yes, sir.
So if you're on that committee, so we'll meet Tuesday at 5 o'clock at Mac. You said the side door.
Yeah, there's a training room there, but if you'll go all the way to the end of the building, I'll be there with that door unlocked.
Okay, thank you. And wish everybody happy Thanksgiving and a safe Thanksgiving. That's all I have.
Mr. Cox.
There will be a collaborative conference meeting. We're going to set that for December the 8th at 5 o'clock. How many people do you expect to be at that meeting? Okay, I think there's 12 on the committee. And where should that meeting be held at, or so we can spread out?
We can do it at Met.
Let's do it back at the training, same place, I think that'd be good.
I will do it.
8 to 5, that's at 5 at the Met.
What committee is that?
Collaborative conferencing.
That's collaborative conferencing, and we'll do that at Met. And will you notify Suzanne Miller? And I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Be careful, take care of each other. Thank you.
Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to mention the Veterans Day celebration in the Midway community. You know, we don't have a town in Midway, so we don't typically have parades. But it was quite an event to have the veterans drive through, beginning at the baseball parking lot and drive through the Midway Elementary School with all the children out with their posters and cheering on the veterans as they drove through, and then they proceeded on to Midway High School and Midway Middle School. So that was quite a special event, and we were proud to get to honor the veterans, even though they couldn't come inside and have the typical Veterans Day parade. So thank them for that. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope you have a safe celebration with your family.
Ms. Orr.
Sorry, wasn't prepared. It's okay. Just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Everyone stay safe and enjoy the best way you can. Also want to extend our sympathies to the Brackett family. We lost a legend this past week, so definitely want to continue to remember them in our prayers. And I just want to say thank you to Central Office, all of our principals, all of our teachers, our parents, our students.
Mr. Brackett.
I didn't mean to leave Miss Quick out when I bragged on these of you. They're both rock stars, so happy Thanksgiving, and Mr. Chairman, you done a good job.
Thank you. Ms. Tate?
I just would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and to thank all the staff and, you know, even the ones that go unnoticed, the janitors that are having to clean and try and keep everything sanitized. Just hope everyone's blessed and get to spend some time with their family next week.
Coach King.
You make it, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Taylor?
I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and remember, no more than 10 at one time. Stop over, what's going on? Good evening.
Ms. Black?
Got a little bit of business at your all's place. You saw where I have gave you all your academy classes. Everybody's going to have to do one. If you remember, we did not have summer law in July. Did not have our convention, and that's where a lot of you get your academy class. I've highlighted. Let me stress. Everybody's going to be in the same boat this year. Nobody got to go get any of this, so I don't. You know you can attend. Let's get you registered, because I'm afraid some of these will fill up quick. And also, you'll notice down at the bottom, some of you may have already done your core. There may be some that you all may can do online. That is also an option this year. But I have highlighted what I think you all can attend. So if you will look over this and get with me, we'll get you registered. And I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Everybody stay safe. Enjoy the break.
Dr. McFarland?
Again, I want to thank the board for your very thoughtful deliberation on a very tough, controversial topic. So thank you for your thoughtfulness.
And I guess I close it out here. I want to thank the board for your concern. And I know Mr. Miller and Mr. Brackett speak from the heart. The decisions, Mr. Taylor, I would count him. The decisions that this board has made, and I've been on here quite a while, Mr. Miller, I know way ahead of him. I guess Mr. Cox will look at total time to probably get it tonight. But nobody up here takes a decision lightly. And I appreciate the thought process of each and every board member. And I appreciate most of y'all out there as Mr. Taylor said, are staff. And these are trying times, and you have performed magnificently under the most trying of circumstances, and you continue to do so. Without the encouragement, even though, like I said, we don't have a mandatory mask policy, I know you are patrolling your halls. And I know and I've seen firsthand that you are encouraging your students and your staff to wear masks, even going so far as, I think Dr. McFall said one school is giving airhead candy out, said don't be an airhead, wear a mask. So I think she has sent an email to you to try to encourage you to find ways to reward your students. I appreciate everything you've done. I think everyone on this board does. And like I said, under the most trying of circumstances, we're all learning. I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I know a lot of people, and I guess I'm a little bit different. It's like I told someone, you just got to do what you think is right. You got to do what you think is right. And I hope everyone has a safe and happy Thanksgiving. And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, the Christmas lights out. Yeah, I didn't see them at night. I never get through there at night. I'm always there. Done, bro. Done fishing.